Ritchie compass. This is the compass that came off. As you can see, we have a lot of crazing here, and the globe, which is a 5-inch off a 5-inch Ritchie compass, is one of the earlier models. While it may appear to be a simple thing to do, but it's first thing you're going to have to do is remove the brass ring around. They are held with 632 screws on the end here. There are 8 of them all the way around. And as you remove them, because this is an aluminum housing in a stainless steel screw housing, the bottom more than likely will tear out, and you will not be able to replace the other screws. As you remove the bezel and the brass ring, one side is beveled, the other side is not. The beveled side is there for the purpose of letting the O-ring that is here sit properly in the housing to secure the O-ring is a one-time item, can only be used once. Once used, it must be thrown away and replaced. There are 2 types of bowl. This particular one does not have a lip and is flat. As you can see, we've taken all the fluids out of this for demonstration purposes. But after 30 years of being exposed to weather and so on, this is where the fluid is evaporating out. This is the part that really needs replacing. Once you've removed that, you can literally lift the compass ring out of its housing. Okay, now let's address this first. I'm going to move this aside a little bit here. It's very simple. This is the old fluid fill-up. There's a gasket behind it. Okay, underneath is an aneroid bellows. In this case, it's the old style, and it's made out of brass. The newer ones, I believe, are a diaphragm based and have to very interesting how you can replace this here, in that the pins. Move the lights over here a little bit and see if we can see this a little bit better. Like this. They're actually spring loaded in this section right in here, and you can remove them from the side of the housing very carefully, very similar to what you would use to do the wristband on a watch. You pull the pins back a little bit off the corner, the whole assembly comes out, and the inner ring assembly can also come out. Now, on the back side, you're going to see a little circlip. I have left this particular circlip in. This is a one-time deal. It's pressured, it's also brass, and it just gets pushed in there once. It holds the counterweight in place, and it holds the center magnet in place. The center ring, your actual compass ring, with the magnets that are underneath the compass ring, which are actually located under this section. You can clean this out with some nice kerosene. What will happen over a period of time, garbage will build up in there. It just generally needs to be good and clean. Some people use kerosene to replace the fluid with. However, you want a fluid that has a UV inhibitor in it. Otherwise, it will eventually turn a yellowish, dirty, yellowish, cloudy on you, and it will not look very nice. It'll look quite sloppy. So don't skimp on the fluid. Use a good compass fluid. To the actual ring, this is where the expense comes in a little bit. What will happen is, as you remove this, you will notice here and here we have some serious corrosion that has developed because of the stainless steel screws in the housing. Since this bell is fairly thin in terms of aluminum and it's extruded, it's quite expensive. It's about $150 for just this little bell. And since we've removed this 6/32 screws from it, these holes are now oversized, elongated, and they will not work properly Even anymore. If you think you can get them out, you will not be able to put them back. So now you have to modify this or replace it and buy a new one. I chose to do a little modification. One of the things that I chose to do is, if you look very carefully on the back side, I have replaced this inner ring with a copper ring made out of some flexible copper tubing and then epoxied it in overnight. What this is going to do is now I can re-drill these holes. There are 8 of them all the way around the top, and re-tap them and put the new screws back in. The ring will go over the bowl, the screws will drop in, and they will now pass through the housing and into the copper collar that is underneath. There's a fair amount of pressure on these because it has to squeeze the O-ring up against the glass or it will leak. The other area that you're going to be addressing is on the underside, which I have currently removed. You have the magnets that hold this in place, that swing your compass for you. You're going to have 2 of them at 90 degrees apart. These magnets are actually just little tiny pieces of iron magnetized. They go through this hole here. Okay, they pass through that hole like that. Then there is a cup that goes over top like this, and a spring that goes on behind there. This whole assembly now gets inserted strictly right across there into these holes, port and starboard, on each side, 90 degrees apart. Okay, these magnets line up directly on top of each other, perfectly perpendicular on each side. What has happened in my case is that the aluminum rod that was holding the magnets in place has broken in half. I am now going to have to do is come up with a proper aluminum rod, re-drill the holes into this inside on each side of these, and rebuild this rod. Then it's very easy to reassemble. Once you have all of your holes drilled, all of your taps drilled out again, 6/30 seconds. If you chose to change the size of the screw and go to an 8/32 you will not be able to fit the screw head into the brass bezel ring, and that must sit flat in there. Otherwise, you will not be able to place the finished collar or the bell, that nice shiny chrome section that goes over top of this, and it will not sit flat and it won't look good. That's why it's a lot easier to build the backside up and use the same size screws rather than go one step larger and try to grind these things down to make them fit in this countersink ring. Other suggestions that have been made is to do something very similar to this. Take this 8 nuts, and then stainless steel nuts, grind down the corners and insert them to the back of this. This is extremely time consuming, and most of the time it probably will not work. You're doing this primarily to resolve the corrosion problem in the holes. It is much more prevalent in saltwater environment than it is in freshwater environment where this compass came from. As you can see, after 30 years, it still has a lot of corrosion. So you're basically going to drill these out, retap them to a 6/30 second screw, making sure that the countersink fits with the brass ring. This whole assembly then goes back together. This is very simple. There is no rocket science to this at all. It just drops right in, lining up your filler hole. There is like a detent in here. There you go, just like that. The new bowl that you're going to get goes on top. You have a new O-ring that goes on top of that. And now you're going to drop the brass collar around with the bevel to the bottom. Something like that. And then you're going to insert your screws all the way around. On the back side comes your, now these little magnets that are on each side, they're used primarily to help you swing this
All
compass
you're going to do is
properly,
push it in
okay?
like this.
Push it through the hole. Push it in all the way, and then slide it down into this other hole right here. So essentially, that's what you've got right there. And both sides are just held in with the spring that is on the end here. The object is that once this is all assembled, you can literally go in to the side right here. There's a little slot in here that you can get a small finish screwdriver into, and then turn these rods at the same time that you are swinging this compass every 90 degrees. I suggest that be done by somebody that has had experience in doing this, because you cannot be done anywhere near magnets such as your radio speakers. So each compass needs to be swung according to your boat. That's it. That's how it's done. Don't forget that brass ring is important. Swing it over. Drop your component in. Just like that. Put your bowl over top. Put your gasket down. Put your ring on. And put your screws in. Then comes time to fill the fluid through here with compass fluid, nothing else. Otherwise, you will be sorry in the long run. And you're all set to put it back on the boat. Thank you. I hope that's helped. And we'll see you on the lake.